Yeah.
All right, we're going to start now. We'd like to welcome everyone to Harrisville City Council tonight. Welcome to council members and staff and those guests in the audience. We appreciate you all being here tonight. We are going to have a pledge of allegiance and an opening ceremony by Councilmember Weiss.
Repeat the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible. Our Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here tonight to go about the business of this city and this wonderful city we live in. We are thankful for all the blessings we receive and the people that we have live here in this city and the wonderful time it is with them. We're thankful for the moisture we're receiving. We ask you to continue it. And we are grateful for all we receive. And we say this in Son Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Hey, we're going to move along to our third item, our consent items. The first one is the approval of the meeting minutes for November 15th, 2022 and November 22nd, 2022. As presented, we all had a chance to look at them and any changes or anything. Right. All right. I'm going to, if you're okay, I think we'll have A and B on the consent items. We'll put them together and just make one motion. So if that's all right with you, we'll just go over item number B, which is the approval of the regular meeting schedule for 2023. And you have those dates in front of you. We will meet the second Tuesday of the month for all year long. Planning Commission will meet the second Wednesday of the month all year long, unless otherwise notified, or sometimes there is a second meeting called. So with those two things for your review, I'd like to entertain a motion for consent.
I motion that we approve the meeting minutes from November 15th, 2022 and November 22nd, 2022 as presented, and also the approval of the regular meeting schedule for 2023.
All second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, there is an item that I want to address that's not here on your agenda. Not because it's not important. We have been doing some things in our city for recognition. I think you're all aware of that. We wanted to make sure that people are recognized for the years of service, and we have kind of neglected that in the past. And the last couple of years, we've been trying to do that. So I have a plaque here for Chief Mark Wilson.
No warning.
Steve, if you want to stand up and accept it. Chief Mark Wilson for 17 years of service.
You don't really think you're uniform on.
Yeah, hey, wait, let's see. Yeah, he's good. I remember interviewing you when you first, when I first became. And he said this is where he had started, so I was pretty impressed that we can do your whole career.
Only took like 4.
Yeah, wait.
This comes with hope. Thank you for being here, Mark. Great, and I keep calling you Mark, and I can show. I appreciate you being here, Chief.
I like Mark, thank you.
All right, moving on to number 4. It's not a public hearing. The item on the agenda is the Harrisville City Council will take comments for or against Harrisville Resolution 22-24, which is a resolution amending the city budget for fiscal year 2022-23 in accordance with Utah code. Jennie Knight, our city administrator.
Thank you. I'm gonna tag team this a little bit with our finance director, Jessica. Included in the fiscal 22-23 budget was a part-time position for our police evidence custodian. This position was hired a few months ago, and the employee has shown an increased aptitude for additional responsibilities. So the public works director has needed to have some assistance in the emergency management. He's been covering those responsibilities and filling that role since his hire in August of 21. And with the increased aptitude of the new employee, we have opted to offer a full-time position to get the assistance that we need in the emergency management element. As you're all aware, we missed out on some federal funding because there was a lapse in the Weaver County mitigation, the emergency mitigation report, and they have started the process of renewing that and adopting a new report. And this new employee can be highly involved in that and keeping us apprised of where we're at in that. The state has indicated that they will hold this funding for us for when that's adopted, and we can get those funds to make the improvements that we have. And this will just help both the role in the past has bounced back between the police department and public works, depending on which employee was filling that role. And in this case, we see it as a shared role between the police and the public works in helping. But the amendment is actually to add the full-time position to the police department, because the employee was being funded through a part-time position, and we now want to make that a full-time position. And the amount is in the memo,
$43,173. And that includes all the benefits, everything, right?
That is just salary.
That is just salary.
So because this is a shared position, we'll be funding the benefits through a different line item. So we're actually only asking to amend the budget by this amount for the full-time position.
So evidence custodian.
Emergency management / their duties as. As we all call that. For staff.
Jessica, anything more?
Nope, Jenny covered it.
Okay. Any questions for either one of them? All right. So that is the issue at hand. I now need a motion for a public hearing to address that.
I'll make a motion, we open a public hearing.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, motion carries. This is an opportunity for those in the audience that want to address the council on that subject to come to the podium. You have 3 minutes to address us, and the time is short. And I'm not feeling it. All right. I'd like to make a motion or have a motion made, please, to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I don't vote, but thank you. All right, moving on to item number 5. A motion needed to adopt Harrisville Resolution 22-24, which is a resolution amending the city budget for fiscal year 2022-23. Jenny, that's just what we've addressed, right? So unless you have any further questions, I would need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we adopt Harrisville Resolution 22-24, resolution amending the city budget for the year 2022 and 23.
All right, a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. This is a roll call, vote, please. Councilmember Logan,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yeah.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Williamson.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item number B, this is to adopt Harrisville Ordinance. Sorry. What is it, 38? 538, sorry, okay. It's a right-of-way fees amended. Justin, you want to explain this for us?
So over the past couple of years, we've done quite a few amendments to our right-of-way fees and the fee schedule that is constituted of that. What we're finding out is a lot of different agencies that actually have different, well, just for example, Dominion Energy, when they come in to hook up a new house, they don't dig up any sidewalk, they just dig in on right of way. And so the fee doesn't need to be so expensive for the brand new homeowner. We can do a lesser fee. Or if we have it like Bonnie Vista or Pineview that are who we work with on a daily basis and are for our residents. I don't necessarily know that a $750 road cat fee is always justifiable. If they're gonna make sure that they take care of the patch for the longevity of, 5 to 10 years down the road, and they have came back over the years and readdressed patches that I said have felt and taken care of that. So it just gives me in writing a little more leeway to decide what fees need to be assessed out of the fee schedule, and or to decide if they need to pull the full $10,000 bond to an outside bonding agency, or if they're like Bonnie Vista, Pineview, where we know where they're at. They're within our city every day. Do they really need to pull a $10,000 bond and tie up their money for 2 years for that?
Any questions for Justin on this?
Within that leeway, does that protect us though?
Very much so. We still have the fee schedule, and again, it actually gives us leeway either way to actually increase the fee if it seems to be a bigger. So like I said about Dominion Energy, to hook up one single home in a new subdivision, if we charge $100, that's great. But then this past year, they dug up all of West Harrisville Road, and after it was all said and done with, their right-of-way fees were right around $15,000. And so I need that leeway to be able to charge accordingly as per job, not just the flat fee, because I don't want the city to miss out on money, but I also want the city to be fair to our other agencies that we partner with. That we're not actually causing them to have to raise rates and charge our citizens higher rates to pay back the city.
I guess my concern is to make sure it's justifiable. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Because if you were to come to me as a homeowner and said, this is what the fee schedule is, but something happened and all of a sudden you changed it, it has to be justified.
exactly. And that's where the justifiability comes in, is like the $10,000 bond. Well, if you're a homeowner, I'm gonna make you pull that bond if you cut into my roadway, because you could sell your house tomorrow and be gone. Bonnie Vista is the water company for the city. They're not just gonna fold their doors up tomorrow and leave. They're gonna, if they have a patch that fails, they're gonna be here the next day or 2 days after to fix that for us, right? So it's just some flexibility within our interlocal agencies that we can work with.
Thank you.
I think Jenny's got something to add.
I just wanted to point out that it's specifically for those agencies that self-perform their utility work. So if it's Bonnie Vista, or to Justin, excuse me, Director Shinsel's point, that if they are contracting with a third-party agency and they're not doing the work themselves, we can still require this. But if they're self-performing the work because they have the means to do that, then it's a way for us to help their cost savings as well, for that aid that they provide and services that they provide to city residents.
Kind of trying to be good neighbors and fix things that have just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Good, I want to always protect the city. I think that's good to keep in mind for her. All right, if no more questions or discussion, a motion, please.
I'll present a motion to adopt Harrisville Ordinance 538, right-of-way fees amended.
Second.
Motion and a second. I need a roll call on this. Councilmember Rowland,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Williamson.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries. Item number C. This is to address adopting Harrisville Resolution 22-23, which is policy and procedures amended. And Jennie Knight.
Thanks, Mayor. This is something that staff has been working on over the course of this last year. We've been going through the policy and procedures manual and identifying issues that we feel the city might be at liability or risk. And this is one where we have a reference in our municipal code that we will follow annual budgetary policies, but we don't technically have a policy outlining our procurement of goods and services. So this policy, this resolution adopts a policy outlining what our procedure will be. So mainly, any purchase less than $5,000 will require department head approval. Purchases between $5,000 and $10,000 require department head and city administration approval. Purchases over $10,000 but up to $25,000 require city council approval. And purchases over $25,000 require city council approval and must be either purchased under the state bid or receive 3 bids for the goods and services. We've also added in, we've identified purchases that are bought under the annual adopted fiscal year budget are already approved because you've approved those in the budget, so they will not necessarily come before you. And we've also identified emergency procurements if the health, welfare, or safety of the public is threatened. We have authorized the city administration can give the department head the authority to purchase or procure equipment that we would need to facilitate that emergency so that we can take care of the residents. So this just identifies a broad, actually. A lot of cities have more detailed, but we thought this was a good place to start. And if we want to make modifications to that in the future, we can, but it gives staff guidelines for purchasing.
I think that answered my question. If it's already budgeted for at the time of budgeting, then it's just sailed through.
If it's supplemented by a budgetary note in the budget, we're identifying that as an already approved purchase by the adopted budget. But if this is something that we need to buy out of our equipment budget and it exceeds
The line item.
the $5,000 or the $10,000 purchase, and some of our line items are larger. If we're spending that amount of money, then we'll come to the council for that approval.
So if it's more than the line item allows for, it's still to say within 5,000. We still be involved in that,
If
or
it's over $10,000.
yeah.
Any further questions? Okay, no more discussion. Thank you. Motion for this item, please.
Make the motion that we adopt Harrisville Resolution 22-23, policies and procedures. Second.
All right, this also requires roll call. Councilmember Rowland,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Williamson.
yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We are cruising right along tonight. Thank you. Item number 6 is our public comments, and this is where anyone in the audience can come to approach the podium. You're given 3 minutes to discuss anything that concern. It's not something that we will be having a conversation for, but you're allowed to have your 3 minutes, and this is the time that I'll turn over to you now. Okay. If no one wants to come up, I think we'll just move on. We'll close the public comments and move on to mayor council follow-up. Within that, I'd like to have the staff follow up if I could. Director Shinsel, you want to give us a report on last couple of days?
Yeah, as you can tell, it's that time of year. We've got snow on the ground. We've been out diligently plowing the last few days. I'm gonna put together a little blurb on Facebook on on kind of how we designate roads and plowing. Because it's ever changing, but right now we try to get out and get the main roads cleared first. The Larson Lane, 1100 North, West Harrisville Road, 750 West, 2000, those kind of mains that tie between 89 and Washington Boulevard. Then after that, we'll get into the subdivisions and get the arterial roads in and out of the subdivisions, and then cul-de-sacs kind of come last. But also the nice thing is this year we had an adequate staff of 7 plow trucks and 7 drivers. That we're actually being able to send 5 drivers out to just focus on the main roads. And then 2 drivers are dedicated solely for cul-de-sacs. So you might see cul-de-sacs getting done a little bit sooner than even some of our main roads, just because we are able to dedicate a few guys to take over and start that. So we are finally able, with the equipment upgrades that you guys have allowed us to purchase, thank you so much. We're able to give a better service to the city and try to get these going. Hopefully, if the storm comes in and dumps, and it dumps 2 inches or more, and we've got to plow the entire city, we're hoping to have that completely done by 4 hours. Now that's very would be great that if the storm came in, dumped and left, but as long, you know, as we know, that doesn't very much happen here. We have the storms that come in and linger around. So it may be that the event takes 6 or 8 hours to clean up. If we have to do multiple pushes, but right now we're looking at trying to get about 4 hours per push, get the entire city done, which I feel is actually a very, very good number and helps our residents stay as safe as possible.
Thank you. We appreciate you and your team. I know it's long hours when it starts at 3 o'clock in the morning, so thank you so much. Chief Wilson.
Yeah, first I would just like to say thanks to Councilmember Williamson for his sponsorship and our shop of the year up. So I have a little something for you. We appreciate it. Thank you. The event went very well. I think all the kids had a great time. We were also able to give the parents a $125 gift card as well to get groceries or other things that they needed. So we look forward to doing that again next year. It was fun. So the cabin was almost too small, so we're growing fast. It was full. It was great. The second thing I have is follow up from previous council when we approved the radio purchase. We've been emailing and calling for months to try to find out when they expect payment. Well, we got a bill today and they expect half up front by January 10th. So that's going to be just a little over $53,000 for the upfront cost of it. But they were pretty quiet about the whole thing until today when an email popped up. So just an update on that. I think that they're planning on going live with those radios on the first quarter of 24. So it shouldn't be soon when we pay the other half. So, but we are required to pay the first half of that so we can qualify for the 60% discount. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Jessica, do you have any for us tonight? Anything to report?
We're still waiting on the audit. Very frustrated. We hope to have it by January. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I know that was a lot of work, but all that effort into the audit anyway, so thank you. City Administrator Jennie Knight.
So I just have an update. All of you may be aware you received an email right before Thanksgiving about the moderate income housing report being not compliant. I just wanted to report back that 66 out of 88 cities were non-compliant. So it wasn't uncommon, nor was it a surprise to actually get a non-compliance letter. Some cities were only non-compliant based on a few words in their general plan. The main concern for us is that it does require a general plan amendment. To meet the state requirements to amend our general plan requires us to hold a public hearing at the planning commission level and then have them recommend that to the city council. To meet the deadlines to make that happen, it's going to be a very tight January and February schedule. So just wanted to make you aware of that Maria has been great assisting me and as well as other staff, Director Shinsel today with Jill's help in getting the data that's required to embed in this report about our moderate income housing. And then also to come up with the required strategies and implementation plan, including a timeline. So you're probably going to have a lot of land use changes that you're going to see come through as we try to implement these strategies into our zoning requirements and look for other ways that we can meet the moderate income housing requirements by the state. We are anticipating through this legislative session, they will make some modifications. As is typical of legislative updates, they often don't recognize the unintended consequences that they cause, and they go back the next session to try and address those and correct those. We're hoping that that does take place, but unfortunately, the 90-day window falls right in the middle of the legislative session. So if we're not in compliance, we do not want to have them take stronger action on the moderate income housing requirements. So they have some caveats in that as far as funding that is pushed out to the cities if we're non-compliant. So we're doing everything that we can to meet that compliance. So we're looking at a public hearing at the planning commission level in January. That will be prior to our retreat, which we're still planning for January 24th. And we will talk about a lot of these strategies at that time. And then you will see that come before your body on February 9th or 14th, excuse me, Valentine's Day, and our cutoff for 90 days is February 16th, just to let you know how tight that time schedule is for us to meet that. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer that, what that entails, what's included, the strategies we're thinking of. I'm happy to, if you want to meet one-on-one and talk about that, I'm happy to do that. But that's really where my focus has been the last few weeks and will continue until we meet that requirement.
What are they doing to penalize?
They're holding our transportation tax funding, which can be up to $500,000.
Yeah. Go.
That's what they're telling us. That's what we're hoping to avoid. And also there's not a lot of structure on an appeal process for cities that feel like they've met those requirements or those strategies. We have some opportunity that we've already adopted in our zoning. We have our mixed use ordinance that allows the flexibility for us to do multiple family housing or smaller lot sizes. The one thing none of us could have anticipated was the inflated cost to housing, which really impacted the amount of moderate income housing that we had in our city. Significantly reduced the amount of moderate income housing. And so we're trying to implement some new rental policies for our landlords. What that looks like is, I believe it's been just over a year. In fall of 2021, we adopted an internal dwelling unit ordinance, which allows people to rent out a portion of their home as long as they're living there. So that we can implement more of that. And also tracking mechanisms so you know how many rentals we have in the city, which will increase the number of moderate income housing that we have that we're just unaware of at this point, if that makes sense.
So did the state modify their, I don't know how to say it, what moderate income housing is? I mean, if all houses have inflated, then did they, what modern income housing is, or did they leave it down bottom when houses were $300,000 instead of $600,000?
So moderate income housing definition has not been changed. It's 80% of the median income in
Okay,
our community. So the average median income for our community is $77,000 a year annual income. So moderate income puts it around 61,000 for a moderate income housing. That puts a home at the $200,000 mark for an affordable home.
Well, there is in a city in the state that has modern.
yeah,
So you can see the conflict that the city's facing to meet that requirement, but at the same time, we don't drive development. We don't drive through, we create zoning ordinances, but we don't drive what the developers want to have as long as they meet our standards. And so we have a lot of single family homes. I've been working on it this afternoon, and even with our proposed, our proposed developments, we have over 500 single family homes and 480 something multifamily units in our 7 developments that we have that are ongoing right now. So the more multifamily units should help, but those are marketed at a higher rate than what our median income is. We haven't seen income increase at the inflation we saw housing. So what they're gonna do to address that this session, I don't know. We haven't had any early indications that it's gonna be favorable for cities.
I was gonna say, because even with the, I mean, townhomes are 300,000 and 400,000. And that's pretty inexpensive.
So we've kind of taken the mindset to strategize with things that are within our control, like the good landlord program and giving incentives for landlords to participate in a in a landlord program in training to screen their applicants and things like that, which gives them a reduction in their business license fee. Those are things that we can implement. We've tried to focus on the strategies. The state outlined A to X, so however many that is, strategies that you can choose from. And so we tried to identify things that we thought were within reason, but obviously those can be further discussed they will be further discussed with the planning commission at the public hearing. And then at the retreat that we meet on the 24th of January, we can go into more detail and get your feedback if you want to modify some of those for the final adoption. But our goal as staff is to make sure that report meets the compliance requirements so that we're not going to get dinged. That's the goal that we're trying to meet.
So then the retreat, and then we're still having our city council on the 10th, right?
Yes, we'll have a regular council meeting on January 10th, and we'll have the retreat on the 24th. The focus of the retreat will be 3 prongs. It'll be the moderate income housing, it'll be the budget, and it'll be economic development.
They realize how pickle they've got everybody in and they're willing to make some concessions.
So we don't know because it's too early for us to know what they're going into. We know there's 2 hot topics this year for the legislation. That's housing and water. We know we've been told those are going to be the hot discussion items. The timing for us in this moderate income housing report is just that our 90-day window falls right in the middle of the legislative session. So our worry is if we do not have our cities in compliance by that deadline, they're going to take action later in the legislative session that would be to our detriment. A couple of years ago, they set aside transportation tax funding for transit, and a lot of counties haven't distributed that, and there's a pool of money. They were saying they're going to, the League of Cities and Towns is trying to convince the legislators because that money is up to be used by June of 2023. And if they don't disperse it, it's going to be absorbed into other areas. So they're trying to give that as an incentive to cities that are in compliance so that they call it the 5th. So it's part of the transportation tax that was set aside for mass transit that's not being utilized. So that's something that we had to look forward to for compliance. But as far as penalty we want to give them any incentive to penalize cities when the development is outside our control to begin with. We don't drive development. If we could kind of get that point across, it would be really extremely helpful.
That's what I mean. I think we're kind of over a barrel here. I mean, catch 22. Where we have to say and balance say yes, but we can't do it. I mean, we can say yes in one sense, but we don't have the tools to be able to change.
So
Is that what I'm understanding? Essentially.
Yeah,
But as long as we say we're giving, then
but if we put implement, we do have a lot of unanswered questions, the city manager met, and we have a lot of unanswered questions as far as if we implement a strategy that fails, can we then choose another strategy and we're still in compliance, or at what point we identify that these strategies we're not able to implement them? I've taken the liberty to be broad on some of them, that we will do assessments or studies to, for example, external accessory dwelling units. So if somebody built a shop in their backyard and they wanted to have an apartment in the shop, we don't currently have an ordinance that allows that. If we were to identify areas in the city where that would be less of an impact on residents, that's something we could consider, right? But we try to be pretty broad in that, not saying that we will adopt those regulations, but that we will assess the zoning in our city to identify areas where it would have the least impact to our current residents to allow multifamily living inside one space.
So I'm confused with how if it's met by income, 60 whatever $1,000, which means a $200,000 whatever home. So how does a rental play into that? Because they're not buying a rental.
Right.
So how does
It's the monthly income. So we have a standard of what the owner occupied rate for a monthly mortgage is, and rentals usually a couple $100 below that. That puts them into the moderate income, because it's a couple $100 less than that. At least that's what my research is showing as we go through this. But as far as ownership, home ownership, we still have a very high home ownership. We're 81% owner occupied in Harrisville, which is great for our community. And up until, in comparison to our 2018 report, we had 78% moderate income housing in 2018. 78% of our housing stock was considered moderate income housing in 2018. That's more information than I meant, but I'm happy to answer your any questions that you have. You'll be hearing a lot more about this between now and February as we try to mitigate those requirements that the state's put on for us without putting the city at risk.
Thank you. I know that's a stressful issue. You both, Marie and Jenny, have done a wonderful job addressing this.
So on a lighter note, I don't know if you have this on yours, Mayor, but we'd like to promote our Santa Cabin event on this Thursday. We're doing something a little new this year. We've arranged for Santa to ride along in a Northview fire truck throughout the city and just have a police escort, and then he will complete his tour of the city down at the cabin and do his regular Santa at the Cabin event from 7 to 8:30. And our parks director, Brian, would like to invite you all to attend that at some point. You can't be with us tonight. And then I'd also like to mention that we have our giving tree up here at the city and also one down at Walmart. And we're starting to see those tags turned back in with the fulfilled gifts on that. We anticipate having several families in our community that we can help with the giving tree.
And that was on Thursday.
Thursdays. The parade will run from 5 until right before 7, and Santa will be dropped off at 7 at the cabin to see the kids, and they'll have donuts and hot chocolate at the cabin.
I saw somewhere that the parade route was on the city website, and I couldn't find it.
You could not find it?
Not the day I got my water bill. That's where I found out about it. It wasn't on there that day.
I believe it's under our city events, but let's find it here. Community events. And at the cabin.
Okay, so there it is. All right.
And
Great.
Should have a computer literate.
Okay, we're happy to help.
Ryan's done it so that you can. It's color coded, so you can look at the color code, and see approximately what time the fire engines will be going through the parade, so. You don't have to just worry about what time it's gonna get to your area or what time you wanna have your kids out. It should be. He said he's driven it numerous times and he's got it down. He's pretty accurate. And so, look at that. Please tell your neighbors, and so we'll have. A pretty good showing at this. We wanna have a new tradition and something that'll be really fun for families. So hope to see you all there on Thursday night. Thank you, all staff. I appreciate all this follow-up. We're gonna turn over to council follow-up. Grover, do you have anything?
No, I'm fine.
All right, thank you. Steve?
I just have one question. How has it been with the cars and plowing? Has it been better?
And I very much expressed this to our chief and to other officers. They have done a wonderful job this year, getting out and just leaving a little note. We have little orange notes. And so they've gone out and done very well at getting people to understand that, yes, they need to get their cars off. Again, there are always those few that just don't understand it, but yeah, for the most part, I've seen a huge increase in letting people know, and a lot less vehicles out on the road.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, no.
All right, thanks. Kenny, you have any questions?
Stop sign. in the Bible.
Stop sign or speed limit?
Speed limit sign, sorry, wrong words, yeah, speed limit sign we talked about.
I'm getting that done. As I said, kind of the storms have been getting crazy. We are looking into also we put some those paddle mailboxes for the data. Okay, to understand what speeds they're going. And yes, we're kind of finding those gaps where speed limit signs need to be more readily available.
Yeah, there's one going each direction in the middle of North Harrisville Road. One of the mayor's end, but there's nothing at this end.
Yeah.
So people come off West Harrisville Road anyway, and will they end up in the wrong lane half the time?
Right.
Starting out, so anyway,
Yes, that will be taken care of hopefully in the next couple weeks.
Thank you.
Just trying to get through these storms that happen, and signs, they're kind of that funny thing that as of late, they've been quite a jet.
might have one in my shed, I'll
Anything else?
look. No, that's it.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Nope.
All right, Blair? All right. Thank you all. Appreciate all the reports, all the investment in the city. All right, we'll move on to item number 8. I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The council is now over.